Things are constantly changing, from cars and any type of technology to food and the products we use every day. But what about the things that have remained the same and stood the test of time? Like 100 years worth. See which products and services that have basically not changed since the 1920s you're still using today. Coca-Cola. While trends come and go, one thing has remained constant for nearly a century: the unmistakable taste of Coca-Cola. Since 1929, when the final traces of narcotics were removed from the original formula, the secret recipe has remained virtually unchanged. While the company flirted with a recipe change in the 1980s, the about turn was quick. New Coke was a dud, and after plenty of public backlash, the company gave the public what it wanted: a return of the classic Coca-Cola. Whether it's sipped from a classic glass bottle at a retro diner or poured over ice from a modern soda fountain, that familiar blend of caramel sweetness, fizz, and just the right amount of bite transports drinkers across generations. Despite the rise of countless competitors, Coca-Cola has stood the test of time, proving that some things simply don't need fixing. Crayola crayons. The smell of a fresh box of Crayola crayons is one of childhood's most recognizable scents, and that familiar waxy aroma has been the same for over a century. Crayola introduced its first set of crayons in 1903, and it didn't take long before they were a staple in school classrooms and homes. While new colors have been added over the years, the fundamental design, purpose, and even the cardboard box packaging have remained remarkably consistent. The same basic tool that once helped kids in the 1920s color their world still fills art boxes today. Campbell's soup. There's something timeless about a warm bowl of Campbell's tomato soup paired with a grilled cheese sandwich. First popularized in the early 20th century, Campbell's classic flavors like tomato and chicken noodle have remained practically the same in recipe, taste, and even packaging. The iconic red and white label, originally designed by a Campbell's executive inspired by the Cornell University football team's uniform colors, has endured for over 100 years. Through economic downturns, wars, and changing food trends, Campbell's soup remains a go-to comfort food, offering the same warm, nostalgic taste that it did in the 1920s. Levi's jeans. Few pieces of clothing have remained as consistently popular as Levi's 501 jeans. Founded in 1853 by Levi Strauss, by the 1920s, Levi's denim was already a favorite among workers and miners for its durability, but it quickly became a symbol of casual fashion. Despite the ever-changing fads in fashion, the 501 cut and the rugged quality of Levi's jeans have remained largely unchanged. Whether worn by cowboys, rock stars, or everyday people, Levi's jeans continue to represent a timeless style that has bridged generations without a major overhaul. Ivory soap. Marketed with the famous claim of being 99.44% pure and known for its ability to float in water, Ivory soap has remained essentially the same since its early days. The bar soap was originally developed in the late 1800s, and by the 1920s, it had already solidified its place in American households. With the same mild formula and recognizable white bar, it has continued to be a household staple for over 100 years. While the personal care industry has introduced an endless variety of body washes and specialty soaps, Ivory's simple and effective formula has never needed to change. Hershey's chocolate bar. When Milton Hershey introduced his famous milk chocolate bar in 1900, he set a standard that hasn't changed much since. By the 1920s, Hershey's chocolate was already an American staple, and over a century later, the same simple and delicious recipe continues to delight chocolate lovers around the world. Unlike many candy bars that have experimented with new ingredients, fillings, or flashy packaging, the Hershey's chocolate bar has essentially remained true to its original form for over a century. Arm & Hammer baking soda. Packaged in a small orange box that has been a kitchen essential for more than a century, Arm & Hammer baking soda has remained virtually the same in both appearance and purpose. First appearing in the mid-1800s and used primarily for baking, its versatility became well known by the early 20th century, with people using it for everything from cleaning to deodorizing refrigerators. Unlike many household products that have evolved or been replaced by modern alternatives, this multi-purpose powder continues to be relied on for its time-tested effectiveness. Band-Aid. The invention of the Band-Aid in 1920 revolutionized how people treated minor cuts and scrapes. Before its creation, treating small wounds often required a cumbersome process of applying gauze and tape. The Band-Aid simplified first aid, offering a quick and convenient way to protect wounds. Over a century later, the basic concept remains the same. While modern versions include fun designs, waterproof materials, and flexible fabrics, the original purpose and simple adhesive strip remain as relevant today as they were when first introduced. Kellogg's Corn Flakes. The simple, crunchy cereal that started as a health food experiment in the late 1800s turned into a breakfast staple, and it hasn't changed much since. The same light, toasted flakes that once filled the bowls of families over a century ago are still enjoyed today, often with the same splash of cold milk. While the cereal industry has introduced countless sugary and novelty varieties, Kellogg's Corn Flakes have remained true to their original no-frills formula. Jell-o. This wobbly, jiggly dessert that entertained kids in the 1920s is still delighting taste buds today. Originally marketed as a fun and affordable treat, Jell-o became a staple in American households, appearing in everything from fruit-filled molds to elaborate dessert creations. While its popularity has fluctuated, the product itself remains pretty much unchanged, still using the same basic gelatin-based recipe that made it famous since its debut in 1897. Now let's take a look at some of the services that have stayed status quo. But first, if you're enjoying this video, please take a second to hit that like button. Barbershops. Walking into a traditional barbershop today feels like stepping back in time. The leather chairs, the buzzing of clippers, the straight razor shaves, and the warm lather applied with a bristle brush. These are all elements that have remained largely unchanged since the 1920s. While modern salons have introduced high-tech hair treatments, the classic barbershop still operates much the same way, offering simple, no-nonsense haircuts and shaves. While maybe not as populous as they once were, the friendly neighborhood barber, complete with light conversation and old-school charm, is a tradition that has lasted for generations. Movie theaters. The way films are made has evolved drastically since the silent era, but the movie-going experience itself is nearly identical to how it was in the 1920s. Audiences still buy their tickets, grab a bucket of popcorn, and settle into their seats for an immersive experience in front of a giant screen. While sound, color, and digital technology have improved the movie-going experience, the core appeal of escaping into a darkened theater to experience a story remains basically the same. The magic of the silver screen continues to captivate audiences just as it did a century ago. U.S. Postal Service. Despite the digital revolution, the process of mailing a letter or receiving a package through the U.S. Postal Service is remarkably similar to how it worked in the 1920s. Stamps, envelopes, mail carriers, and the familiar blue collection boxes are all still a part of daily life. While electronic communication has reduced the volume of personal letters, the USPS continues to deliver billions of pieces of mail each year, proving that some traditional services remain essential. Taxis. Ride-sharing apps may have changed how people hail a car, but the traditional taxi service is still very much alive. The process of flagging down a cab, watching the meter tick upward, and handing cash to the driver at the end of the trip hasn't changed since the 1920s, when the taxi business was modernizing along with the evolving automotive industry. While newer technology has modernized dispatching, the fundamental experience of a yellow cab rolling up to the curb remains a familiar sight in cities worldwide. Diners. The classic American diner, with its long counter, shiny chrome stools, and retro booths, has barely changed since its heyday in the Roaring '20s. The menu is just as recognizable today. Burgers, fries, club sandwiches, pancakes, and, of course, bottomless coffee. Whether you're stopping in for a late-night meal or a weekend breakfast, the comforting, no-frills experience of a diner remains a beloved part of American culture. Train travel. While high-speed rail and modern amenities have improved the experience, the essential function of train travel remains unchanged. In the 1920s, long-distance trains had sleeper cars, dining compartments, and conductors punching tickets, just as they do today. The rhythmic clatter of the tracks and the scenic views out the window are timeless elements of rail travel that still provide an alternative to cars and planes. Libraries. Despite the rise of digital books and online information, public libraries still function much as they did 100 years ago. Rows of bookshelves, quiet reading areas, and helpful librarians remain a staple of the library experience. While most libraries now offer internet access and digital resources, the core mission of providing free books and study spaces to the public has remained pretty much static for over a century. Funeral homes. The rituals surrounding funerals have remained remarkably consistent. In the early 20th century, funeral homes handled embalming, viewings, and burials in much the same way they do today. While customization options have expanded, the basic services of a funeral home, offering a respectful farewell to loved ones, have endured with very little change. Parks and playgrounds. Whether in a bustling city or a quiet small town, parks and playgrounds still serve the same purpose they did a century ago. Walking paths, picnic areas, and slides and swings for children have been a constant feature in public parks. Even with more modern materials and updated play equipment, the simple joys of playing in the park or climbing a jungle gym remain timeless. Don't forget to like and subscribe as we check out some more items that have not changed in 100 years. Books. The way people consume information may have gone digital, but the printed book has been around since the 15th century and essentially looks almost identical to one published today. The same bound pages, printed words, and distinct smell of paper and ink have remained consistent for generations. Classic novels from the 1920s, such as The Great Gatsby, continue to be read and studied in nearly the same form as when they were first published. Playing cards. A deck of playing cards is one of the simplest forms of entertainment, and its design has remained largely unchanged for over a century. The suits, numbers, and face cards used in games like poker, blackjack, and bridge today are the same ones that gamblers, magicians, and families used in the 1920s. Hot dogs and hamburgers. The fast food industry has exploded since the 1920s, but the basics of a hot dog or hamburger remain exactly the same. A grilled beef patty on a bun or a hot dog topped with mustard and relish is as familiar today as it was 100 years ago. Whether cooked at a backyard barbecue or served at a classic roadside diner, these two American favorites have definitely stood the test of time. Wrigley's chewing gum. Founded in 1896, if you pop a piece of Wrigley's spearmint or juicy fruit gum into your mouth today, you're experiencing the exact same flavors that people chewed over 100 years prior. The company's branding and product lineup have remained consistent for over a century, proving that the simplest pleasures never go out of style. Zippo lighter. The classic flip-top Zippo lighter, introduced in the early 1930s, still operates the same way it did when it first came onto the market, with its metal casing, windproof flame, and satisfying click when opening and closing. It remains a favorite among smokers, campers, and collectors alike. Wristwatches. While smartwatches now dominate the market and the 70s and 80s saw the rise of the digital watch, the traditional analog wristwatch still functions the same way it did a century ago. A rotating set of hands on a numbered dial, worn on the wrist with a leather or metal strap, remains the standard for classic timepieces. Basic kitchen tools. Many modern appliances have come and gone, but some kitchen tools have stayed the same. Manual can openers, cast iron skillets, and wooden rolling pins still function exactly as they did in the 1920s, proving that sometimes simplicity is best. Board games. While new games are invented all the time, some classics have remained untouched for over a century. Backgammon, checkers, and chess continued to be played using the same rules and board designs that entertained families in the 1920s. Baseball. America's favorite pastime looks almost identical today as it did a century ago. While the rules have been tweaked over the years, the layout of the field and even the experience of watching a game from the stands has remained largely unchanged. While equipment has improved and players have become stronger, the essence of baseball remains the same. Basic fashion staples. Fashion is one thing that changes pretty regularly. However, some clothing styles never go out of fashion. Items like leather shoes, wool sweaters, and the little black dress, made famous by Coco Chanel in the 1920s, are still wardrobe essentials today. Another fashion staple that has stood the test of time are high-heeled shoes. The silhouette of a high-heeled shoe has remained largely the same since the early 20th century. Whether worn in the 1920s or today, high heels continue to be a staple of fashion and formal wear. Crossword puzzles. First introduced in newspapers in the early 20th century, crossword puzzles remain a popular form of entertainment. Their grid format and word-based challenge have barely changed since they first gained widespread popularity. School classrooms. While technology has crept into modern education, the basic classroom setup, desks, a blackboard or whiteboard, and a teacher at the front of the class remains largely the same as it was in the 1920s. Which of these unchanged classics do you think could last another 100 years? Let us know in the comments. And stick around for another nostalgic now and then video with a modern twist.